It's Wednesday, the 5th of October, 2016. I am Robin Yellow, and this is Techtasm episode 31. Google doesn't launch Andromeda. Well, with me again, because nobody is as slim, is Mr. James Woodhull.
Mr. Yellow, good evening.
How are you, sir?
I'm very, very good, thank you. Very good. It's very nice here in my little office. I just thought I'd tell you that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you recovered from your American trip?
I think so. I think I've learnt that I cannot eat everything in sight.
Yes, that's right. There will be consequences.
Yes.
Well, James, this week we're going to be looking at Google's lack of an announcement on Andromeda, more woes for Samsung, and that Google announcement yesterday in New York. Well, we'll be judging these stories and a couple of others to tell you if they are a Techtasm, which is a blend of tech for technology and tasm for phantasm, something existing only in a person's mind. So without further droning, let's get on with the show. Recode reported on Monday that Google was going to launch an operating system on the Tuesday called Andromeda. And this operating system was expected to bring some of the desktop-like capabilities of Chrome into Android to form a super OS that could compete directly with Microsoft Windows and Mac OS. And so on the evening of Tuesday, the 4th of October, it didn't happen. I was expecting a new operating system with multimodal windowing, a file system, and all the other accoutrement of a desktop operating system, and it never came. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt, James, that this thing is going to happen, but I think when it is announced finally, this transition to this new OS could take years, and that could potentially cause confusion and concern for end users.
Well,
don't you think?
Look, they've proven that they can put the Play Store on Chrome OS. So why they can't do that with Andromeda, I don't know, which gives them a complete Apple ecosystem. So maybe it's not going to be as painful transition as it might be. But I need to ask the question, why? I mean, Chrome OS is a good operating system, and now it's got apps, that's brilliant. Android is a good operating system, great. They're both based on Linux, so they're pretty much the same thing anyway. Why do they need a new one?
Well, that's a good question, actually. And I suppose two things occur to me. One, perhaps they want to have a single code set to go from IoT to the desktop. Because remember, they're not so big in IoT, and they're non-existent in desktop. And those are two areas potentially where a new kernel designed from the ground up could cope. I mean, let's not forget here, the Linux kernel is 25 years old. And secondly, I suppose their recent experiences that we've reported on this show, James, about being sued by Oracle over IP infringements, and also due to the fact that Microsoft take $5 off Samsung and HTC and LG and anyone else that sells an Android phone, they can get their lawyers into for potential IP infringements.
Yeah,
so
two
the
points
Android,
on that, though. I mean,
yeah, go on.
Microsoft take royalties not through any code infringement. Okay, Microsoft don't really have any code in Android, right? Point number one. But going back to the point you mentioned about IoT, an IoT operating system and a desktop operating system are completely different beasts and have different priorities. So making a unified OS, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No, that's true. All right. So I threw in IoT and I threw in desktop because that's what I wanted to see. But I would say this, and a lot of people have reported on this already, but if you look at the word Andromeda, it's a combination. If you combine Android and Chrome, Andromeda, you combine the two together. So, maybe it is just to combine the Chrome OS laptop and Android and not do anything else more complicated. But again, as you said, I was trying to answer your question, why have a third one? Why not stick with what you've got? I mean, yes, there's an argument for simplification, one code set, but two, aren't they a bit wary and weary of all these IP lawsuits that they've been getting into?
Yeah, but they don't get into them from the Linux operating system. side
Okay,
of
well,
things.
there was Java, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Oracle
yeah.
were
It
going
was
after
with
Java.
Oracle. It was Java, and Linux runs whatever programming language you want. I mean, Microsoft have open sourced the .NET runtime, so they can have an entire OS built in C# if they want, and Microsoft can't come after them. What I don't understand though is if they're building it from the ground up, including the kernel, that is a big deal. I mean, I can't. There have been no OSs. The most modern OS at the moment is, believe it or not, Windows NT, and that was from 1993. Yeah. So what? Because of course OS X is built on BSD. That goes back to the 80s. Linux is 91, around then. Windows NT 93, 94. These things, they take a damn long time to get right.
Well, here's another way of looking at it. Perhaps it's marketing. Perhaps Google is looking for something fresh and new to focus its highly paid and highly talented workforce on. And now, because of its announcement from Tuesday with all these new devices, and we'll talk about that in a minute, it maybe wants to pick the perfect time to play an OS into its own branded devices, whereas before it was effectively giving an OS away to lots of phone manufacturers. Maybe the future for Google is to say, well, actually, we make everything with our own stuff.
Well, I guess we need to see. I mean, to me, it doesn't make too much sense. It's the perfect Techtasm question. Building your own operating system from the ground up, because an OS, it's like an iceberg. 90% of it is beneath the water, and you're reinventing the wheel. I mean, maybe you can extract 0.5% of power increase over the Linux kernel. I mean, who cares? So
yeah, but then Microsoft cockily said back in early noughties they weren't going to develop IE any further because IE6 was perfect; it couldn't be improved. And look what happened to that market with the disruption.
Yeah, sure, but come on, a web browser and an operating system are completely different beasts.
Yeah, I get that. But then Chrome OS is a web browser on top of it with just enough operating system underneath it.
Yeah, no, but it's Linux. I mean, Christ, you've got 20 years of development or whatever it is, behind it already to do things like power management and, USB drivers and all that kind of crazy, crazy stuff. I mean, if I quickly Google how many lines of code are in Linux, here, quick typing. I mean, we're looking at 13 million lines of code. That's just the kernel. Sorry, 15 million lines of code in 2011. So it's more now, I'm guessing. No, it just seems ridiculous to me.
That's a hell of a lot of lines of code.
That is, and that's just the kernel. That's not the file system. That's not the shell. That's not any apps or the SDK or whatever else.
Okay, so I want to see it, but what I'm saying is I want to see Android and Chrome OS merged what I want is Android on the desktop. I want to access the Android ecosystem. But then, as you said, they've just delivered that, haven't they, on the Acer R11? And they just announced today that the Canary channel for Chrome OS is giving Google Play support to another raft of Chrome OS devices.
Yeah, so what exactly are you looking for? I mean, you've got apps, Android apps, and the entire app ecosystem running on a desktop PC. I mean, where do you need to go from here that's somehow magically different?
I just wonder if they've looked at Microsoft and thought, actually, maybe the folks at Microsoft got it right when they said, one operating system to rule them all. They couldn't quite deliver on that, obviously, because Windows Mobile is effectively dead. But, as a goal, maybe it appeals to them. I don't know. Well, they didn't launch it, did they?
Well, who knows? But I don't know. The Windows kernel's great, but then I'm a bit of a fanboy, so hey.
Okay, call it, James.
Clearly a Techtasm. This is Techtasm. This is Techtasm squared.
Okay, you heard it first.
Okay, well, can we move on very, very, very quickly? Interesting story. This one kind of won't be put out. There you go. In Mac Rumors, Judy Clover has written that there's been a fire on a plane with a Samsung Galaxy Note 7. I know, yawn, yawn. We've all heard this before, except this is the replacement safe version of the phone. Of course, Samsung issued a worldwide recall of the Note 7s. They've been slowly handing new ones out which don't have the battery deficiency. But unfortunately, a few days ago, one caught fire on a plane.
This is ultra fresh news. This is less than an hour old.
Yeah, exactly. See,
Macro.
Techtasm, we're on it. We're on the button.
When we're usually not, but we are today.
Exactly. See, what, one day late, but we've got some.
So let me just be clear about this, James. When Samsung recalled the Note 7, they recalled all 2.5 million of them, or all that were at risk, yes, which was a significant number at cost of billions of dollars, to then offer replacements, which started rolling out a week or two ago, with safe versions, which had obviously had their battery design checked and verified, and these were safe phones.
Yep.
That had been rolled out, and the one that's just gone off has been deemed safe, i.e., it is a replacement phone. Is that what you said?
According to The Verge, which the Mac Rumor story came from, the gentleman involved, Brian Green, went into an AT&T store, which is, I guess, a US cell carrier, on the 21st of September to pick up the replacement, and confirms that it contains the right markings on the box to indicate that it was a replacement safe phone.
Yeah.
So he claims that the phone was about 80% of battery, and he was using a wireless charger. He's only used a wireless charger since receiving the device.
Right.
So this is really, really scary for Samsung. I mean, Apple, of course, were rumored to be increasing their production volume because the first round of Note 7s had problems, and that's the rumors or the sentiment was that people would be moving more to iPhone. But, I mean, Samsung with the new phone, I mean, this is going to damage their reputation so much that even their replacements, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I'll tell you, to a lot of people, Samsung, Android is Samsung, Samsung is Android. And this is going to drive a lot of people to the iPhone 7, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Samsung have conveniently even given it the same number, just in case you were confused about what else you should be buying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there hasn't been any word yet from Samsung after this latest fire, but I mean, what the COO Tim Baxter said back in September, and I quote, "We did not meet the standard of excellence that you expect and deserve, and that Samsung is working hard to earn back customer trust." Well, I know this story is fresh. I haven't seen it anywhere else apart from The Verge, and Mac Rumors, of course, but I would expect that this would certainly be making kind of headline news over the next day or so. And
I would have thought they need one or two of these to go off. One could just be a freak. I mean, let's just remind everybody that lithium-ion batteries can be explosive. We put effectively little fizzing potential bombs into our pockets every day. Each phone is the same. The fact that it's happened to this device, my understanding is that what happened is that the space allocated inside the phone for the battery, there wasn't enough space around it to allow for swelling, shall we say, which is a natural part of the process as the battery is heats and discharges. And because of the slot into which the battery goes was a bit too tight, it caused pressures inside the battery, which allowed the anode and the cathode to connect, cause a loop back, and then cause a fire. Certainly the problem for Samsung is it's declared these things safe.
Yeah, I mean, they've gone to a lot of effort to reassure people that this new battery is completely safe. That's just.
But it was actually bought on September the 21st.
Yeah, September the 21st was when it was bought.
And he went onto the website to verify that it did not need to be recalled.
According to The Verge, the smartphone had a green battery icon, and box that the device came in featured a black square, both of which are indicators of a replacement Note 7. So the box and the device had the correct markings to say that it was a verified replacement device. According to Samsung, it shouldn't have had these problems. I hear what you're saying about there has to be one or two before the press starts jumping on this. I disagree in this, and hey, well, let's wait a week and see what happens. It's just a bit unfortunate. It's really bad. The press don't need a lot to jump and create a story, so I think
they're in serious.
They are. So I guess it's not really a question of a Techtasm or such, but will we start to see shifts away from Samsung for iPhones moving forward?
I think for this particular case, yes, I think that's probably the obvious thing that's going to happen. There will be a reputational impact. What happened was these Samsung Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge were big hits, especially the S7. It's a massively good phone that sold in very large numbers. And what Samsung did, because the previous version of this phone was the Note 5, is that they skipped Note 6 and went straight to Note 7 because they wanted to hang on to the coattails of the success of the S7. So they wanted to tie everything to the number 7 because it had been successful. What's happened is they've now sullied the number 7 brand, I think. And, it will clearly... The Apple people must be having a party. They'll be the only people celebrating because, it's awful when your phone catches fire. And apparently when, these lithium-ion batteries go off, they will chemically burn your skin. I mean, it's very bad things.
Yeah, the report says, and this is what Brian Greene told The Verge. He said it was dropped on the floor by a flight crew after seeing thick green angry smoke pouring out of the device. I mean, I imagine that's quite a scary thing. I mean, imagine what it's like if you're in your pocket and it's it's just crazy. Oh.
Well, it's certainly not a typical Techtasm story, but very hot and fresh news and a sad day for Samsung. We'll see how that plays out over the next week. I'm going to CNBC next for the Google unveil on Tuesday as they unveil the Pixel phone with unlimited storage and the Google Home. They were the highlight devices. Let's quickly go through these because I'm sure our listeners have got their Google fix from other sources, but let's go through. They unveiled a new high-end smartphone, the Pixel, which comes in the Pixel and Pixel XL variant. The phone starts, I think, at 599 GB pounds, going up to 819 GB pounds. It's the first phone Google have made which is designed and built by them, kind of very much along the iPhone model. iPhone designs it and Foxconn builds it. In this case, Google designed it and HTC build it. And it's been launched as an exclusive for Verizon in the US, very much following, I think, the Apple iPhone model of launching exclusively with AT&T, so they could really control the experience from the get-go. I suppose in terms of specs, it is state-of-the-art. It's got the Qualcomm 821. It comes in 32 gig or 128 gig. It's got a 12.3 megapixel rear-facing camera with big pixels. I think it's got an f-stop of 2, which isn't quite as good as the iPhone or the Samsung for low light. But they do state that they've done independent tests on it, and it has been classified as the best camera you can get on a smartphone, according to the slide that went up during the presentation. Do you believe it, James?
Are these experts that were on the payroll? Or,
Yes. Wonder how much that cost. So a smartphone. Any interest from you, James?
Look, it's very nice that Google keep on doing it. In fact, we had delivered to the office today a Nexus 5X. It's a very nice piece of kit. I'm sure the Pixel will also be a very nice piece of kit. Google need to control Android, and this is the only way they can do it. So, yeah, I think it's...
And it actually launches with Android version 7.1, the only phone that's going to have it, including Nexus devices, I think, until the end of the year. So there is a bit of a uniqueness there.
But I mean, what's the point? What's the point of that? I mean, from an app developer's perspective, you're not going to build an app that targets any 7.1 APIs. I don't know what they are, but
yeah, neither do I. I think they're mostly UI improvements. Well, interestingly enough, and as a side note, they've cancelled the 5X and 6P now. You can't buy them. They're not available on the Google Store anymore.
Okay, interesting.
It looks like they're doubling down, as the Americans say. They also launched the $129 Google Home. I'm giving you that price in dollars and not GB pounds, because the Google Home device will not be available in the UK at launch. And I think it'll be available on November the 4th. It'll be shipping. And this device, just to remind you, is very much like the Amazon Echo in that it is a device that in this case looks like some kind of air freshener or, essential oil dispersing device that sits in your kitchen or your living room, and you talk to it and it does things.
How are you getting on with your Echo?
It's a gimmick, and it's starting to wear a little bit. It has got some interesting uses though for things like alarms. It's very good.
Okay.
For playing kind of background music is very good because the Amazon Music Library is not very good. I don't have Spotify, so my music service is Google Play Music. That's where I get all my songs.
So you think based on that, then Google Home for you would be a better device because
I'm invested in the Google ecosystem. It's likely to be better. But I think there are two further reasons which I would give you, James. One is that I think the Google Assistant, the AI behind Google Home, is much better. That I think it's got better comprehension, better ontologies, better, graph search. I think it can just make better sense of the questions that I ask it. And two, it's got a particularly unique feature where you can ask it to, for example, play, as I know you love Katy Perry, play Katy Perry on the living room TV. And if you've got a Chromecast plugged into the TV or an Android TV, it will play it automatically. So you can actually voice control the TV, play, pause, all that kind of stuff.
Isn't it really interesting that Apple have been ridiculed for a long time about creating a closed ecosystem, but almost out of nowhere, Amazon and now Google are doing exactly the same thing.
I know. And Microsoft as well with their Surface line of laptops.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, Apple make a hell of a lot of money doing it, and some accountant has finally got hold of the dreamers in Google and in Mountain View and said, let's make some cash.
Yes. Well, interestingly, about a year ago, when Alphabet was created, the mantra from head office to the subsidiaries was no blank checks anymore. You need to make money.
Yes.
And I think you're starting to see that now from Google, because for a very long time they didn't really do much. There's lots of crazy moonshot projects.
Yes.
But I think, hey, that's great. I mean, I'll try Google Home when you get one. I won't get one.
Yeah, of course you won't. Yeah, but interesting, there's no equivalent in the Apple ecosystem. So you'll have to suffer. There were a couple of other products I want to tell you about before I wrap this one up. First of all, the Daydream View headset, which is for $70, comes in slate, crimson, and snow. And it's a kind of, it's like the next iteration of Google Cardboard, but it's got two important enhancements. One, it is made from a beautiful sort of cloth, so it's all soft and squidgy, where you actually hook the phone into the front of it, a VR viewer. You hook the phone, at the moment it's only the Pixel, into the front of it with a nice little sort of bungee cord band. And second of all, it's actually got a controller. So there's a little controller, a little hand controller that you can wave around like a wand or point or use as a fishing rod to actually interact with the 3D world itself, which is kind of tucked away inside it. So actually takes it to the next level for $79.
Yeah, and that's pretty good. But I mean, in reality, that it's a holder for a phone. I mean,
yes, you've got to buy a $900 phone to go in it.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So no, hey, it's interesting. Basically, it's a Gear VR without a Samsung badge.
Yeah. Couple more things. Last two things. New version of Chromecast for $69 called the Chromecast Ultra. That'll also launch in the UK, I think, at the same time, though I don't have the price here, which will support 4K. Who cares? And the final thing is the Google Wi-Fi router. So this is a sort of white hockey puck device with a sort of blue LED band around it that you can buy in a 3-pack for $300, $299, or you can buy on its own a single one for $129 that you replace your home router with, and it gives you Wi-Fi, for all your services and everything. But they showed an interesting feature that you control the thing with an app, so it doesn't have any buttons or interface. It's all done through an app. And you can do things like pause the Wi-Fi at mealtime. So they showed this little use case where this little family was sitting down to their tea, and he just whipped his phone out and pressed pause, so there was no Wi-Fi during tea. So the kids had to talk to their parents, which I thought was great.
I can't imagine that being used much. Okay. Well, I'm glad they're doing that. I know you're going to get upset by saying this, but Apple have had a router for ages, and it's a pretty good home router. So if Google can emulate that, then that's great.
Well, I suppose the unique feature there is that it's a mesh network. So you buy them and you just distribute them around your house, and they will automatically change the signal strength to give coverage, is the way they described it. And 2, it's not available in the UK, so only in the US.
But, okay, I mean, the Apple one does that. So, okay, well, great. I think.
Right. Okay, no Techtasm story there, so I hope I didn't dwell on that for too long by your standards, James. I've got another one here. Tesla, BBC reported, nameless Jono droid, reported on the 3rd of October that Tesla has seen a jump in car deliveries. Now, the firm has said it shipped 24,500 cars in the third quarter, and this is up 70% on second quarter and more than double the number delivered in the same period in 2015. Now, it has also confirmed its 50,000 production target for the second half of 2016. Looks like they're getting into some numbers.
Is that the first time they've hit their production target?
Well, they've never stated one before, so they can't really miss it. But they've now stated a production target, so presumably they're very confident.
Okay, I mean that's pretty good. I mean they've all. I know they've struggled with production for a while now, and the question that came out when the Model 3 pre-orders did so well, I think it's more than 300,000 pre-orders, is if they're struggling to build Model S and Model X's, how are they going to build 300,000 Model 3s? So I'm guessing they finally sorted out their manufacturing. What's really interesting about this particular article, which BBC nameless Jono droid quite happily points out, is US electric car maker Tesla, which is yet to make a profit, has reported a sharp rise in car deliveries. I mean,
so is it making even less profit now because it's making more cars?
Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, have they had to sacrifice something to hit the production target? I mean, I heard a really interesting story a couple of days ago that Tesla makes most of its money from green energy subsidies from the US government and actually loses money on every car. I mean, that is, I don't know if that's true or not, but
well, I have heard a couple of, a few cracks are appearing in the Tesla story. A couple of individuals, friends of friends mostly, who've got Tesla cars, have been very disappointed with the build quality. Very disappointed with the amount they get gouged for extras. Very much like the Mercedes model, I suppose. When you buy a Mercedes, it's got, do you want wing mirrors on it? Do you want hubcaps? You've got to pay those extras to keep that sort of headline price looking decent. And let's not forget it's built in America, and they traditionally America is not a country that is well known for its high quality car manufacturer. So anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the Detroit, of course, for a long time was the place to get cars, but then the Japanese do them very well, the Germans do them very well. But Tesla has been acquiring a lot of talent in that arena. So, hey, maybe they're finally sorting themselves out.
Well, I hope they do.
Okay, well, I don't know if there's a Techtasm there. I mean, let's hope they can hit their production targets, because I know a few people have ordered them. But
no, we were very skeptical on that. I think this is a Techtasm. I think they've had an unusually good run, and they're making a big thing of it by announcing that they've got a production target when they probably know they're going to be able to hit it because something has gone right for them, or they're letting dodgy cars through. I think there's still a Techtasm. I still think they're going to struggle with the Model 3.
Okay, well, I agree. But moving on. Another BBC article. However, Dave Lee is the author of this one, so he's clearly risen up through the ranks to be granted stories with his own name.
We've had one of these from before, from Dave Lee.
We have. Well, I mean,
America tech correspondent.
Yeah, that's the chap. I mean, it's a bit of a silly story. It's been in the news for about a week or so. Snapchat are launching their own wearable device. It's a pair of sunglasses, and with a built-in camera, and they're calling it Spectacles. Interesting name. Not too sure how they came up with that. And the idea being that it will record 30 seconds of video at a time. I mean, that's all it does. It just records video. So I think this is a bit ridiculous.
But they know their audience. And just to describe the specs, I think I would call them funky. And they appear to have in the sort of top corner on either side a little daisy flower, I suppose, with a camera in the middle of it. Does it sort of light up when it's recording?
It looks like it does from the picture in the top of the article, but you're right. They know their audience, and yeah, you know, whatever. I have to say, I'm not sold on wearable headsets for the consumer. I know I've been involved in wearable technology for a long time. I get the enterprise use case through and through, but the consumer one, I don't know. It just seems.
Yeah, but this does one thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a fad. It'll be forgotten about next week.
Yeah, maybe. But you know, at $130 in the holiday season, it's £100. You know, they're going to sell to teens in boatloads, aren't they? If they can manufacture them at volume and they work, but you know, and presumably they'll make a profit at $130.
Yeah. Well, there's not really anything. I'm assuming it's Bluetooth with a camera. I mean, the BOM cost is not going to be particularly high. So
I think it's Bluetooth on iOS and it uses Wi-Fi on Android for some reason.
Okay, that's really odd, but I'm curious to know the battery life because Wi-Fi is not forgiving.
No. I could see you in a pair of these, James.
Can you?
Yeah, the funky red ones.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a pretty cool guy, so I understand why you'd say that.
Well, exactly. You know, I could see you down the club, you know, with your old ultraviolet face paint on.
I mean, that is what I do on a regular basis. So,
and most nights.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, I would be there tonight, but clearly Techtasm is much more important. So.
I don't think this is a Techtasm. Do you think?
No, I don't think it's a Techtasm because I don't understand young people enough to know if they'll actually buy it. I think it's ridiculous, but I'm not the target market. So I think just to keep it safe, it's not a Techtasm. But, yeah, who knows?
Oh, my goodness. That's all we've got time for this week, James. Now, listeners, you can find us at facebook.com/Techtasm. You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, FeedBurner. In fact, if you've got any podcasting app, just stick Techtasm in and you'll probably find us. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, you've already found us. So I don't know why I keep saying that every week. And remember, if you do like what you've heard, give us some stars, give us some love and some feedback. We appreciate it. Now, as I say every week, we record on Tuesday at 2100 BST, which is why we're recording on Wednesday this week. That was I did that so we could cover the Google event on Tuesday. So this is me, Sir Robin Yellow.
And me, James Woodall. Asking the question on your behalf. Is it real or is it just a Techtasm?